Broadcasting live and worldwide. Here's Brody Brazil.
It is Wednesday night, the 2nd of October, and look, I was going to produce a podcast episode, win or loss, following tonight's wildcard game. Unfortunately, this is not the content or the conversation I was hoping to deliver. 5-1 the final score. Tampa hit 4 homers. The A's just could not get their offense going. So for the second straight season, their campaign ends in a wild card defeat. Couple different points I want to make here. In fact, 8 in total on this episode of the podcast. Some of them looking back, some of them all about the present and tonight and the dust settling, and some of them about the future, which I actually still believe is the brightest spot for this team right now. If you're looking for positives, if you're looking for something to feel right about, it's that this identical group should be back for next season, if not, maybe even enhanced a little bit. Let's begin with point number 1, another 97-win regular season, and especially one where not everything was perfect, right? Last year, the A's also had 97 wins in 2018, but you felt like they went on a majestic, magnificent, monumental run, and they did, and everything was special last year. I'm not so sure they had that walking on clouds type feeling in 2019. There were some slumps to deal with, there were some injuries to deal with, and there were just some unfortunate situations all around to deal with. I mean, Frankie Montas in his 80-game suspension, that was one of the earliest ones this season. Imagine if the A's had his services and his performances for an entire regular season. But still, right, even if I mention all of the things that didn't go right, the A's still ended up at 97 wins. And this in a spring training of 2019, where Las Vegas had them winning a projected 83.5 games. So on the outside, a lot of people thought that what the A's did last year could not be replicated. Not only did the A's do it, they did it maybe not even playing their best baseball. Number 2, I realized that with tonight's loss and last year's loss and 2014's wild card loss, even though that was a completely different team, there is the feeling now of a certain wild card curse, right? The A's get in these games, elimination contests, and they can't find the winning side. And we showed on our pre- and post-game coverage going back to the year 2000 how the A's have not won any of those elimination games, but I have unfortunate news. It goes way deeper than that. The last time the A's won a win or go-home game was 1973. Game 7 of the World Series against the Mets. That's the last time they've been in an elimination game and won. And I understand anytime you lose, it's not fun, but the way the A's lost in 2014, the way that New York jumped out early and never looked back last year, and kind of the same exact thing, it's just that the A's, they had home field, but Tampa had the home runs, and Oakland just could never get their bats or their crowd into tonight's game. And I don't know, curse, maybe that's a bit of a strong take, but I know some people are going to frame it up that way. Sean Manea started for the A's, and an interesting year he had personally. The roller coaster journey of coming back from injury and being able to make the 5 starts in September that he did, and looking so sharp as he did in September in those 5 starts. In fact, Sean Manea, as it relates to the long ball, he only allowed 3 homers in the 109 batters he faced in September, right? In those 5 starts. 3 homers, 5 starts, 109 batters faced. Tonight, he allowed 3 homers in just 10 batters faced. And 2 of them came off the bat of the same guy. It was amazing, and I'll get to Yandy Diaz in just a second here. It was amazing how fast Tampa was able to jump on Oakland and do what Oakland typically does to opponents with a long ball. I feel bad for Sean. I know he put a lot of weight on his shoulders going into this one. I know how bad he wanted it. I know how much responsibility he took going into this game, and probably how he's feeling at this very moment. Great guy. And I think he is obviously part of the equation of great things in the future and a leader of the rotation you look forward to for next season. But hey, right now, I can't imagine what's going through his mind and how fast this game flashed in front of his eyes. But my next big point is number 4. How was he even supposed to get a winning result when the A's offense scored just 1 run, right? And you can have the conversation. Should it have been Mike Fiers? Should it have been anybody else? And did Manea lose the game single-handedly? Well, any pitcher, any starter for the A's was going to have to be part of a shutout, considering that they only mustered up 1 run offensively. And for the A's, this has been kind of an unfortunate and noticeable trend as of late. In fact, their last 7 games of the regular season, they scored a total of 16 runs. So in the last overall 8 games of their entire season, 17 grand total in runs. And they've had base runners. During that whole final week and even during tonight's game, they had base runners. They put guys on base through walks and base hits. Oakland had base runners in 8 of their 9 at-bats tonight. And they could only bring home Marcus Semien on a sac fly. The A's finished off the season in their last 49 at-bats with runners in scoring position, 2 for 49. So a team that on average scored more than 5 runs per game of the regular season, by the end, tonight, obviously 1, and a couple recent other games, 1s, maybe 2s, a couple 3s splashed in there. They just had problems bringing runners home. And that's unfortunate that they were able to thrive all season long. The offense was never really a question. But that was part of the defeat, a main part of the defeat tonight. Again, I just want to make that point. As much as anybody would say, it was Manea's fault, it was anybody's fault, Yusmeiro Petit let up the other homer. Look, the bats as a team did not produce, didn't give the run support that was necessary. All right, Yandy Diaz, leadoff batter for the Rays, was apparently limited to hitting duties only, but Kevin Cash, their manager, put him as the leadoff batter, playing first base. All he did was hit a homer, 2 homers, I should say, a homer in his first at-bat, homer in his second at-bat. He played on Sunday to close out the regular season. The game he played prior to that, before being injured, going on the injured list, July 22nd. Missed all of August and played 1 game in September and comes into the playoffs, 2 for his first 2, with homers at the Coliseum on the biggest stage, on the biggest possible stage. That's almost hard to believe. So, Diaz, a star of this one, the difference maker. If they were going to give out an MVP of this game, Diaz was definitely it for Tampa. I said this before, I'll say it again, it's my number 6 point here. The A's kind of got beat at their own game. The long ball. All 5 runs that Tampa scored were via their 4 homers. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. It was supposed to be a low-scoring, low-offense game. Night game at the Coliseum, rather chilly temperatures. That's not exactly hitting weather. But for Tampa tonight, it definitely was. I mean, those were not cheapy homers. Those balls were well hit. So credit to Tampa for surviving and thriving with the offense. My number 7 point here is the 54,005 fans who were in attendance at the Coliseum to witness this one. Look, I think anytime you can get that building that full, it's a reminder of how special the Coliseum still is. I know all the criticisms over the years. I've heard every single one of them. And we also know that it's drastically improved in recent seasons with what the front office and Dave Cavill and Chris Giles have done, the Treehouse and Shibe Park Tavern and the Championship Plaza and the Coppola boxes. And I mean, look, everything has gone up to about the highest possible product you can get out of a building that's more than 50 years old. 52 years old. They're maximizing, the Coliseum is going to have its best years as its last years. The A's are maximizing every last square inch they can get out of that place. But the one thing that has always been tremendous about it, the circular shape and the capacity. Yeah, the capacity has hurt the A's because it sometimes makes it look cavernous and empty, even when they draw, a respectable 28 to 32,000, and those are nice crowds, 32,000 doesn't really hit like it does if it only seated 32,000. Instead, you can get 54,000 in there like they did tonight. But when they're able to do that, just the electricity, and that's part of it. You barely got to see it. Start of the game, maybe when the A's got their run, but that was about it. I guess this point is twofold. It was great to see how many people are out there able to come out and support the A's in a big game like this. But the other hard part about it is that the A's were never able to leverage all those fans and that potential advantage into an actual advantage. I felt like as soon as they scored one, they might be able to add a couple after that. And it just didn't happen. All right, so my last big point here is all about the future, which I still know. I absolutely know is so bright for the A's. Name all the players you like on this team. You like Chapman? He's back. You like Olsen? He's back. You like Marcus? He's back. Laureano? He's back. Canna? He's back. Grossman's back. Manea's back. Fire's back. Puck, Luzardo, Sean Murphy. Everybody on this team is either contractually obligated or is arbitration eligible for the A's. I almost forgot that word, arbitration eligible. I'm losing it here at the end of the podcast. The only three guys who are outright free agents are Homer Bailey, Tanner Roark, right? And both those guys didn't even start the season with the A's, so that's understandable, and Brett Anderson. And I'm not even going to sit here and pretend to know the futures of all three of those guys. I will say that in different respects, they all gave the A's something great this year, and specifically Brett Anderson, a career year in wins and 31 starts, something like that, stayed healthy from basically start to finish. He was a true strong point in the rotation, and I hope he gets all the credit he deserves in a next contract in baseball, wherever that might be. I also want to point out, too, by the way, another side point here. 2 question marks entering tonight's game were left field and second base. And catching was also another question, and the A's went with Sean Murphy, and Fegley ended up playing the majority of the night when Murphy got pinch hit for. I think that's a great confidence to show in your rookie catcher who's basically played about 20 big league games, and now here he is thrust right into the playoffs in a crucial situation. But also for the A's to get 8 hits tonight, and 4 of them came off the 2 bats of Jurickson Profar at second and Robbie Grossman in left. Clearly, the A's were going for the veteran approach, and it paid off. I mean, it didn't pay off in terms of the end result, but those guys were able to get on base for half the A's hits tonight, and so they rewarded the A's with that decision. But again, going back to Anderson, Roark, and Bailey, those are the only 3 players who are outright free agents this winter. So the A's are going to look a lot the same next year. And if I'm going to leave it on a high note, that is it. This is the optimism about next season. The identical group with a little bit more experience, another chip on their shoulder, and hopefully only added to. The group will only hopefully be benefited by additions rather than anything else. And you can look across the diamond at the position players that are out there, get everybody healthy again, and shouts out to Stephen Piscotty, who had a rough season again, a couple different injuries. The melanoma scare on his ear that he was able to get removed, the knee injury, the ankle injury. Poor guy just went through a gauntlet of ailments. I also think about, the entire team, Ramon Laureano in the outfield, getting him right. Mark Canna had a great year. There's a lot of players to be excited about in the field, and Sean Murphy, potentially a full season there. But how about Oakland's starting rotation? Now, I'm going to mention these guys first. Gossett, Mengden, Bassett, right? Those are great pieces that we all know how they're kind of rolling into the fold here and what they're capable of. And as well, their versatility, truly, truly valuable. But how about these 5 guys right now for a rotation? Sean Manea, Mike Fiers, AJ Puck, Jesus Luzardo, and Frankie Montas. Let's start right there. Look at those 5 guys and how they could pan out. That is definitely something to be excited about and something that could potentially be built around. All right, so that's going to do it for this unfortunate episode of the podcast. The A's 52nd season of baseball in Oakland has concluded. I have to say, it was a pleasure all season long to just be part of the production of pre- and post-game live. Obviously, Glenn and Ray and Dallas did a tremendous job on the TV broadcasts, and I'm so privileged to work with guys like Bip Roberts and Dave Stewart and Shooty Babbitt. It really was an enjoyable season, start to finish, to just watch how this team progressed, and a lot more wins than losses. And I'd like to think that such was the case for our team in the studio as well. All right, so plenty more baseball material and podcasts to come as the months and weeks approach, but obviously my main focus now will be quickly switching over to the hockey season. So if you like this podcast for baseball, stick around. Plenty more to come over the winter, I can guarantee you that. Until next time, I'm Brody Brazil, and yes, that is my real name.